Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Gates. I'm Alessio, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Beyond the Gates, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. You ever find yourself in the middle of a storm you didn't ask for? That's where I was. My best friend Doug was drowning in trouble with Joey Armstrong, a man you don't cross unless you've got a death wish. His wife, Vanessa, was sneaking around with Joey, and Doug was demanding she choose between him or the devil himself. At the same time, Ted blew up his marriage, again, by sleeping with Leslie, and Nicole made sure Anita knew every ugly detail. And me? I got a warning straight from Joey's mouth. Keep quiet, or end up buried. This isn't just drama, it's betrayal, love, danger, and choices none of us were ready to make. And if you think Vegas is all lights and laughter, wait until you hear what happened next. Hard times and harder choices. I never thought I'd find myself in the middle of so much chaos, but life has a way of backing you into corners you didn't even know existed. When I look back, I can almost trace every bad choice, every reckless confession, every whispered secret, and I wonder if I should have just kept my mouth shut, walked away, and pretended I didn't see what was happening around me. But I didn't. And that's why I'm here, in this mess, telling you my story. Let me start with Doug. Doug has been my closest friend for as long as I can remember. He's the kind of guy you'd want on your side in a fight, loyal, fierce, and stubborn as hell. But lately, his stubborn streak has been dragging both of us deeper into trouble than either of us can handle. You see, Doug's got this ongoing problem with Joey Armstrong. Now, Joey isn't the kind of man you want as an enemy. He's ruthless, slick, and has a way of making people disappear, sometimes in plain sight. People in town whisper about him, but no one dares speak his name too loud. For months now, Doug's been meeting with me, his so-called day one buddy, trying to figure out what the hell he should do. Each time, the weight in his eyes got heavier, the worry lines around his mouth deeper. I could see he was scared, but he would never say it outright. Doug doesn't admit fear. But me? I was terrified. Terrified not just for Doug, but for myself. Because if Joey found out Doug had been confiding in me, if Joey even suspected I knew half the things Doug had told me, then I'd be a marked man. Randy, that's me, by the way, was supposed to leave town, disappear, lay low until all this blew over. But leaving isn't as easy as packing a bag. Not when you've got people who depend on you, not when every mile you drive feels like you've got eyes on your back. Doug, though, he couldn't keep quiet. His mouth has always been his worst enemy. And this time, he did something I begged him not to. He told Bill Hamilton about Joey. He told Bill everything. Now, Bill isn't some saint. He's a man with his own agenda, his own games, and if you give him a card, he'll play it against you without hesitation. Doug spilled it all, about Joey's schemes, about the friend who'd been hired to kill someone. That friend? Yeah, that's where I come into this. Doug didn't say my name, but he didn't need to. Joey isn't stupid. If Bill went back to Joey with even half that story, Joey would put the pieces together, and it wouldn't take him long to figure out who was in the middle of it all. And that's exactly what happened. Bill met with Joey and laid it all bare. Everything. And suddenly, Doug and I weren't just in hot water, we were in boiling oil. Meanwhile, Vanessa, Doug's wife, was living a double life. That's another part of this story I can't ignore, because it ties into everything. Vanessa had this arrangement with Joey. Yeah, you heard me right. She was playing with fire, dancing with the very devil who wanted Doug destroyed. She liked the thrill, the power, the escape it gave her from the mundane misery of her marriage. And Doug knew. He knew, but instead of walking away or calling it quits, he put pressure on her. Pressure to choose. Pressure to decide if she wanted him, or Joey, or maybe just the security of having both. I can't imagine the weight Vanessa carried, but at the same time, I couldn't forgive her. She was supposed to be Doug's safe place, his anchor. Instead, she was the reason he couldn't sleep at night, the reason he drank too much, the reason every choice he made felt like it was being watched under a microscope. And then there's Ted. If you've ever known a man who can't keep his promises, who can't keep his pants zipped, who can't stop lying until he's caught red-handed, well, that's Ted. He did it again. He slept with Leslie, even after swearing to Nicole that he was done, that he was going to change. When Nicole asked him point-blank, he came clean. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was exhaustion, but the truth tumbled out of him like he'd been waiting for someone to pull it free. Nicole was enraged. I've seen her angry before, but this was different. This was fury mixed with heartbreak, betrayal layered on top of betrayal. And Nicole being Nicole, she didn't just do in silence. No, she took that truth straight to Anita. And Anita? If there's one thing Anita doesn't tolerate, it's a man making a fool of himself and his family. I still remember the look on Nicole's face when she said, "I'm going to use this in court." Her voice wasn't shaking, her hands weren't trembling. She was ice-cold, calculated, already seeing the chessboard in her head. Ted thought he could charm his way out, sweet-talk her into forgiveness like he had before. But not this time. That's the thing about secrets in this town, they don't stay buried. They get dragged out, exposed, ripped open until there's nothing left but wounds. And Vegas? Vegas was supposed to be the escape. The place where Dani and Andre could roll the dice and see what their future looked like. They thought maybe they could outrun their problems, drown them in cocktails, laugh them away under neon lights. But Vegas has a way of amplifying everything. The highs feel higher, the lows feel like the pit of hell. Dani kept asking herself if she could commit to Andre, if the gamble they were making together was worth it. And I don't know. Maybe they thought about hitting one of those Elvis chapels, tying the knot in a haze of tequila and bad decisions. But deep down, they knew marriage wasn't a band-aid. If anything, it was salt in wounds they hadn't even admitted were there. And through all this, the rest of us just kept spinning in our own circles. Kat and Tomas tried for romance, and it fizzled. Naomi braced for loss she didn't see coming. And me? I kept wondering if I should have just left when I had the chance. But how do you leave when your best friend is drowning, when the woman he loves is lying in another man's bed, when the man across town could have you killed for knowing too much? You ever watch someone you care about carry a burden so heavy, you can almost feel it pressing down on your own chest? That's what it was like with Vanessa. She tried to pretend she wasn't caught between two men, two lives, two versions of herself. But it was written all over her face. She'd sit at the kitchen table with Doug, sipping her coffee like it was poison, her eyes darting to the door every time her phone buzzed. She'd smile, not at whatever Doug was saying, but the smile never reached her eyes. Doug wasn't dumb, he knew. He could feel her slipping away, one text message at a time. And instead of pulling her back with patience or love, he pushed harder. "You need to decide, Vanessa," he told her one night, his voice low, gravelly from too many cigarettes and too much bourbon. "You can't keep playing both sides. It's me or Joey. You can't have both." The silence, after those words, was like a scream. Vanessa stared at him for the longest time, her lips trembling like she wanted to say something but couldn't. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. "You think it's that simple? You think I can just walk away from Joey like he's nothing? You don't understand, Doug. He doesn't let people go." That broke me. Because she was right. Joey wasn't the kind of man you left. He was the kind of man you escaped from in the middle of the night, praying he wouldn't notice until you were halfway across the country. Even then, you'd keep looking over your shoulder. But Doug didn't care about the danger. He cared about pride, about betrayal, about the image of his wife wrapped up in another man's arms. And that image was driving him insane. I tried to talk sense into him. I sat across from him at the bar one night, the neon beer signs flickering above us, the jukebox humming some sad old country song no one was listening to. "Doug," I said, leaning in close so no one else could hear, "you need to back off. She's scared, man. You push her too hard, and she's gonna break. And if Joey gets wind of it, he's gonna break you too." Doug slammed his fist on the counter, rattling the empty glasses. "I don't give a damn about Joey. He thinks he can take my wife. He thinks he can walk into my life and take everything from me, over my dead body." The bartender shot us a look, and I knew we were attracting attention. I put a hand on Doug's arm. trying to calm him down, but he shook me off. His eyes were wild, like he was teetering on the edge of something he couldn't come back from. And that's when I realized maybe he already had. Meanwhile, Nicole was waging her own war. When she marched over to Anita's place, I swear the whole neighborhood must have felt the chill in the air. Nicole wasn't the type to knock politely and wait to be invited in. She banged on the door like she owned the place, and when Anita opened it, Nicole didn't waste a second. Ted cheated again, she spat, her voice dripping with venom. With Leslie. Again. And this time, I'm not keeping it to myself. Anita's eyes narrowed, the way they always did when she smelled trouble brewing. She stepped aside, letting Nicole storm in like a hurricane. Start from the beginning, Anita said, her tone calm but sharp, the kind of voice that made you sit up straighter whether you wanted to or not. Nicole didn't hold back. She laid it all out. Ted's confession, his excuses, the way he had looked her in the eye and begged for forgiveness 1 minute, only to betray her the next. By the time she was done, Anita was pacing the living room, her arms crossed tight across her chest. I told you that man would never change, Anita muttered. Once a liar, always a liar. And Leslie? That woman thrives on destroying other people's lives. She doesn't care who she hurts as long as she gets what she wants. Nicole's eyes were wet, but she refused to let the tears fall. I'm done, Anita. I swear to God, I'm done. I'm taking him to court, and I'm going to bury him with his own lies. The thing about Nicole is, once she makes up her mind, there's no turning her around. She's like a storm on the horizon. You can see her coming, but you can't stop her. And I almost pitied Ted. Almost. But he'd made his bed, and now he was going to choke on the sheets. Back on my side of things, Joey was tightening his grip. Word travels fast in this town, especially when Bill Hamilton's involved. Bill's meeting with Joey sent ripples through every circle, and I could feel those ripples reaching me, even when no one said my name out loud. One night, I was leaving the bar when I saw him, Joey, leaning against a black SUV, cigarette glowing in the dark. He didn't move when I stepped outside, didn't even look surprised to see me. He just flicked the ash to the ground and smiled that slow, dangerous smile. Evening, Randy, he said, like we were old friends catching up. My heart dropped to my stomach. Joey, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. He took a drag, exhaled, and nodded toward me. You've been keeping busy. Spending a lot of time with Doug. Talking a little too much, maybe. You know how I feel about loose tongues. I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to look away. I don't know what you've heard, but I haven't said a word about you. Joey chuckled, low and dark. Maybe you haven't. But Doug? That boy can't keep his mouth shut. And when he talks, people listen. That makes him a problem. And you, Randy, you're guilty by association. You see where I'm going with this. I nodded slowly, every nerve in my body screaming at me to run. But I couldn't. Running would only make it worse. Joey flicked his cigarette to the pavement, grinding it under his heel. Then he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. You tell Doug he's got one chance. One. He either shuts his mouth and stays out of my way, or he won't have a mouth left to run. And you? You might want to start packing those bags you've been thinking about. Because next time we talk, I won't be this polite. He patted my shoulder, like we were buddies sharing a joke, and then he slid into the SUV and drove off. I stood there, frozen, the night air thick in my lungs. I'd just been given a warning, a deadly one. And I knew damn well Joey didn't make empty threats. From that moment on, everything changed. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every time my phone rang, I jumped. Every shadow on the street looked like Joey's men coming to tie up loose ends. I wanted to tell Doug, wanted to warn him, but when I saw him, his face flushed with anger, his fists clenched like he was ready to take on the world, I knew he wouldn't listen. And maybe that's the hardest part of all this. Watching someone you love walk straight into the fire, knowing you can't pull them out without burning yourself alive. At this point, I've poured out the truth as I lived it. The mounting pressure, the betrayals, the warnings, and the impossible choices. But this story doesn't end neatly. Life rarely does. It keeps unraveling one thread at a time until you're left wondering how the hell it all started in the first place. Doug and Vanessa, Nicole and Ted, Dani and Andre, me and Joey, we were all trapped in this web of lies and choices. Some of us fought, some of us folded, and some of us just tried to survive. And maybe that's all you can do when the world around you is falling apart. Hold on, survive, and pray you make it out alive.